Hey, good morning, Tom. Good morning, Kevin. I know that I can't see you guys or hear you, but hopefully you can see and hear me. You'll notice that we've got a chat functionality in this meeting. I'd love to make this as interactive as we physically can. So if everyone could just start out, I'd love to know a little bit about where we're coming in from today, and the role at your shop that you currently hold. If anyone is having issues with the chat function, we do have Steph So, our Director of Customer Success, able to help as well. But I'd love to make sure that this is engaging for everyone. It's not just me talking at you for the next hour. So if we could get that rolling, that would be fantastic. I'm currently coming out of Salt Lake City, so it's 9:20 in the morning for me, and it is bucketing snow. So I hope that some of you guys have better weather than I do at the moment. And we'll give about 3 to 5 minutes here for people to join from some of their other sessions. Hey there, Matt, coming in from Lucas, Texas. Beautiful. Service manager. Fantastic. I appreciate you getting us started here, Matt. Brenda coming in from Lethbridge, one of the accountants. Fantastic. I love to see that we've got people across a range of roles in the shops. It always makes sure that we're helping all of our customers in their different spaces. Tom, pleasure to meet you, sir. Coming in from Orlando. I hope the weather's good as down there. I got a one of my reps is down in Sarasota, and he's always telling me how much nicer it is than Salt Lake. So I hope you're having a good morning there. 87. There we go. You've got about 60 degrees on me in that case. And given that we're still waiting for a few people to roll in, if you've been at any of the other sessions or you've seen any of our other resources so far this morning, I'd also love to hear how those are going for you. Okay, looks like we're up to 14 here. We'll give it a couple more minutes because I know we have a few more than that registered for the session. Want to make sure that we don't leave anybody in. Thank you, Steph. Appreciate you reiterating for that for anybody who's joining. Looks like we haven't yet heard from Stephanie, from Soren, from Minjay. Soren coming in from Minnesota. Fantastic. You're well weathered in the snow then. And Kevin, great to see you, sir. Glad to hear that you're in the session. Look forward to getting some feedback on this for how we can help everybody. Okay, beautiful. We're coming up on 9:25 here. So in the interests of efficiency for everybody who's here, I'll go ahead and get this started. Um, as far as this session goes, first thing I want to say is that I am probably not going to use the whole hour here. We've got some really exciting things to talk about. However, we have a ton of other educational resources going on at the same time. I will leave some time at the end here for question and answers. But if we have a spare 15, 20 minutes to use, what I'd really highly encourage is that you swing by some of our virtual booths. We've got 3 amazing booths running currently. We have a marketing services, we have a demo so you can have a deep walkthrough of the system, and we have a customer content booth. We also have a number of pre-recorded webinars and sessions that you can watch as well. Attendance or interaction with all of these are going to play into your leader score on the leaderboard. So it's a great way for you to rise up the rankings and utilize that time effectively. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. First thing I want to say is thank you to everybody for setting aside your time this morning and today to join us. For those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet personally, my name's Tristan Corrin. I'm currently our senior sales manager here at AutoLeap. I've been with AutoLeap since November 2020. So I joined back when we had about 3 to 5 customers. To see us at this stage 3 years later, where we have thousands of customers across the US and Canada, and we're in a position where we can run such an amazing event as the Amplify conference, is really exciting for not only myself, but for also the team that I work with. So for those of you that are current customers, I want to start by saying thank you. We wouldn't be here without you, without the work that you put in daily, and without the faith that you showed us in those early days in getting the program going. If you're not a current user, welcome to AutoLeap. We're really excited to have you here. And we really appreciate the opportunity to show you all of the changes that we're driving in the business and hopefully help you improve the industry one shop at a time. Now, as far as the aim of this session, what we want to do is I want to achieve a couple of things. First off, I want to talk about the current state of the industry. I'm sure that if you're proactive enough to be at a session like this, you're also proactive enough to be aware of the software status in the industry. I'm sure you've heard all sorts of names, brands, legacy, cloud, add-ons, DVIs, Google, Techmetric, AutoLeap, like all these different names in the industry. And I'd like to help try to cut through some of the noise in there to help you understand why the industry is looking to change software systems and also help you understand some of the impacts that we try to drive for those businesses. Overall, the return on investment on this software is the metric that we use to assess and underpin our analysis of the effectiveness of the product that we provide. Without a strong return on investment, it would mean that we aren't providing a valuable product to the industry, and we want to make sure that we're always serving you as best we physically can. The great news is, as we'll discuss through the course of this, is that for most shops that implement the AutoLeap software, they typically find that the normal payoff period on this is 2 to 3 months. So for most businesses, the first 2 to 3 months is enough to cover all of the growth that you'll be seeing. And I'd love to explore exactly how we do that. Now, to help me shape some of the flow of this conversation, I've got a quick poll that I'd like to get us started with. Steph, if you wouldn't mind loading that up for me, I'd love to get a sense of our current attendees, what our current stage of software is at the moment. If you wouldn't mind answering that, I'd really appreciate it. I'll give us a couple of minutes to reply to that. Okay, so we've got a couple filtering in here. Okay, looks like about half of our attendees so far have submitted. Just give it a couple more seconds. And of those of you that are answering cloud, which it seems like a high number, which is awesome to see, if you wouldn't mind leaving in the chat, are you currently using AutoLeap if you replied yes to the cloud, or are you using some form of different software provider? Okay, fantastic. So Soren and Selena, thank you so much for being current AutoLeap users. Brenda as well. Tom, on Shopware, that's a great system to use. I'd love to hopefully earn your business by talking through a little bit of ways that we can help drive some of those differences for you. Precious, also fantastic. So it looks like we've got a high number of AutoLeap attendees in this session. If anybody is willing or able to connect with one another, or maybe chat with Tom after this about some of the differences you're seeing, I know that he'd probably really appreciate that. Tom, I'm not signing you up for any conversations you don't want. You don't have to take part in them if you don't want to. So as far as that goes, looks like we've got the majority of people have replied here. What I'm seeing is we've got a pretty even split between cloud-based systems and legacy systems. And then we have a couple of us using the pen and paper, so at the very beginning of their software journeys. So thank you everyone for taking the part in that poll. Let's go ahead and get started on this then. So as far as the return on investment goes for deciding upon a software, it's probably the most important thing in making that decision for your business. We often say that a lot of shops need to make an investment in their software so that they can improve their operations within their business. Now, one of the major driving factors that we have found that differentiates us from the industry and has underpinned a lot of our success is that we typically touch a greater number of phases of your shop process or workers within your business than any other system does. And because we have such a broad-reaching and deeply penetrative software, the analysis of determining exactly what the return on investment is can be quite difficult. And additionally, we wanted to make sure that the data on this was trustworthy for customers like yourself. If it came from us, there's always that question or that skepticism about how are they presenting this data? Are they fudging the numbers? And so in order to remove all of that doubt, all of that concern, and some of that messiness, what we did was we partnered with an independent third-party consulting group called Hobson. Hobson are known for doing exactly what we're about to discuss, which is providing independent, objective, unbiased feedback to businesses about the impacts that their software, their product, or their solution is having to their end user base. And you'll see it on screen here. They worked with hundreds of businesses across the US, and they're one of the leaders in their space. And so what it means is when we talk about potentially reducing parts ordering time by 60%, that's not just a salesperson making that statement and hoping that you believe them. That is a data point that is underpinned through all of our customers and through the experience of a business like this to provide usable data that you can really trust and believe in. Now, in terms of the way that we built that model, as I mentioned earlier, it was a very in-depth process. It probably took us the best part of 6 months. And that was because we wanted to make sure that we did this once and we did it right, much like the work that you guys perform in the businesses on a day-to-day basis. I won't spend too long on this because data analytics and algorithms isn't too fun for anybody, but I want to give you guys a quick overview of exactly how this model was created. So what we did was, first off, we partnered with Hobson. And we then provided them feedback about all of the various ways that we as a business feel we impact shops like yourself, the improvements we drive, the revenue increases that are driven, and the optimization of processes that we're able to provide. So once Hobson had that representation of what we felt we did, they then went and tested if it was accurate. So across the course of those 3 to 6 months, they sat down with a range of our customers and they interviewed them. They talked about what we feel we drive, what they feel we drive. They collected data about historical processes and about new processes. And through the course of this, they developed an in-depth, very comprehensive model that allows businesses to say, these are the changes that are driven by implementing AutoLeap. Once they had that model, they then wanted to make sure that it was correct. So they went and took it and back tested it. They re-spoke to those businesses, entered their numbers in, and assessed whether it was accurate on what it was providing. And once that had been built, what it now allows us to do, for anybody that attends an AutoLeap demo, you will receive a personalized Hobson report at the end of your demo. What it allows us to do is to take 4 pertinent points that underpin the way that your business works, enter them into the calculator, and based on the thousands of shops that have been through AutoLeap, give you a personalized report about the changes we're going to drive, the payback period, and highlight the specific areas of your business, and then give you a dollar amount that the fixes are going to change. It isn't uncommon for businesses to save $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in their first year by bringing in the AutoLeap platform. And so I'm really excited to have a chance to talk to you about some of those findings. Now, as far as the modeling goes, at its highest level, we find that the benefits of AutoLeap break down into 2 distinct categories. The first category would be improving and streamlining the operations within the business. The second would be increasing profitability, giving businesses tools and access to tools that they previously haven't had to increase revenue, drive new customers, and provide that satisfaction and that experience for your end user customer base. Before we get into that, I got another quick poll. I really appreciate you guys being interactive on this. It means I get a chance to have a sip of water. I'd love to hear from the group. If you were looking to change software, or when you did change to AutoLeap if you're a current user, which was the major motivation? Okay, we're starting to filter in here. Looks like operational efficiency currently has a slight edge on the methods here, which doesn't necessarily surprise me given the breakdown of softwares and user types that we have at the moment. Okay, I'll give it 30 more seconds here. It looks like we've got 10 of our respondents. I'll give a few more minutes in case anyone has a last minute adjustment they'd like to make. Okay, fantastic. So it looks like about 75% of our customers or of our attendees today have chosen the increasing operational efficiency, and the other 25 have chosen increasing profitability. What I would say is that is a very common breakdown based on the shops and the industry that I talk to. The reason being there is a lot of people, A, have legacy systems or no system, in which case the major value that we're going to provide is streamlining those, bringing everything under one roof, and making your day-to-day processes more effective. The profitability side, that is typically for people who are carrying a more advanced tech stack and want to add even more tools to it. So based on our breakdown of software, that split makes sense. What I would say is that one of the major things that underpins a lot of the decision making for a lot of shops that I talk to is just how easy it is on both of these channels to make sure that you return the cost of your investment. If your motivation is to streamline operations, typically, if we can return you 12 minutes a day in your business, then AutoLeap will pay for itself. Similarly, if it's increasing profitability, if we can give you the tools or the access to either make or save $20 per day, then the platform can pay for itself. So given that your average ticket for most shops I talk to runs in that $400 to $500 range, you can very easily see that one extra customer a month means that AutoLeap is almost a free-to-play platform. And for a lot of shops, that makes the decision to switch very much a no-brainer decision. So the first side that I'm going to start on, given that we see it as the kind of primary benefit of adding AutoLeap, is our streamlining of our operations. So I'm going to explore a couple of the major impact areas that we see. If you wouldn't mind, quick show of hands in the chat here. Who feels that they spend too much time on the estimating and invoicing processes currently? Tom does. Okay. So Tom, you're on Shopware there, and I know that typing can be time intensive, so I don't want to make you have to write an SAT essay or anything here. Why do you feel you spend too much time on it through Shopware? While Tom types that up, I'll just give everyone else some insight. So as far as it goes, for most shops that I talk to, businesses are building their estimates and invoices in two distinct ways. If you're a pen and paper business, this is done by hand. You're going to do a walk around. The data, etc., exists to make estimating instant. Okay, so Tom, it sounds like you may not be getting all of the info in one place that you need in order to make it as fast as possible. So the pen and paper business that does this, typically you're going to need to use a couple of different data sources or resources to build it. You're obviously going to find your labor time for the work that you're performing, whether that is a free online guide through someone like an AutoZone, more commonly carrying something like an AllData, an Identifix, a Mitchell. You're then also going to have to go through your parts ordering process, which I'll touch on in a moment, which can be pretty labor intensive in itself, especially if you're using multiple suppliers like the majority of shops that I talk to. On the flip side, if you're using a platform like a Mitchell SE or an AllData Manage, something like that, what shops typically tell me is that the estimating process itself, you have your CAN services, you have your labor accessible, but you oftentimes have to go outside the walls of your system to either check a secondary labor guide source, to navigate through the parts ordering that maybe isn't supported as effectively. And ultimately, businesses tell me that they spend anywhere from 15 all the way up to 30, 45 minutes on a single invoice and estimate in that process. Now, for businesses that are spending that kind of time, depending upon the setup of your shop, it can either lead to dead time, where people that could be turning the wrench are doing manual writing, so you're not making your money, or you're in a position where it takes longer than you would like to create that estimate. Maybe now you can't give that customer who's called you up on the phone that instant price quote, and that customer chooses to go elsewhere. What we've found is that typically for businesses that implement AutoLeap and use our integrated systems, it's going to reduce your time spent estimating by about 60 to 70%. So a process that normally takes you 30 to 40 minutes now takes you 5 to 10 minutes. And in that case, at a normal labor rate of $100 per hour, you could be talking about $50 to $75 of extra time turning the wrench just by streamlining this position. We mentioned earlier that in order to pay for itself, AutoLeap has to provide $20 a day. So if those 1 to 2 estimates being sped up, you can pay for 2 to 3 days of AutoLeap in that incremental improvement in your operational efficiency. The second area where we see a lot of businesses spend too much time is with their parts ordering. Typically, the most common thing that I hear from businesses is that they have a couple of different providers that they use. Most people normally use them primary for about 70 to 80, and the remaining 20% of sales is split between maybe 3 to 4 different providers. And the thing that commonly frustrates businesses is that their primary provider may be integrated really well in their system. When you get to those secondary, tertiary, quaternary businesses that you're trying to deal with, they're not as smoothly integrated. It's not uncommon to hear that people are calling up their local Napa. They spend 10 to 15 minutes on hold because there's not enough people working in the shop, only to find out that the part then isn't in supply. You then have to repeat that process a third time as you call O'Reilly's. And before you know it, you're spending not only hours searching for parts, but potentially choosing not to do that process and overpaying for parts. Neither of those are optimal outcomes for businesses because you're either spending too much or you're using that time inefficiently. This is one of the biggest drivers that we see. We integrate with 2 different major parts aggregators, one of which is called Parts Tech, the other of which is called NextPart. And it's designed to mean that instead of moving screen to screen and window to window, you have all of your houses in one location. So you'll see across the top here, in my world, I'm shopping at Napa. To the right of it, I could just as easily shop at AutoZone. We can support all of the vendors that you typically use in your day to day through any of the legacy platforms. And it's going to mean that instead of 5 to 10 minutes per provider, you spend 5 to 10 seconds per provider. Again, speeding those processes. And typically for shops that we talk to, you're going to see a 90% reduction in the time spent parts ordering. For most shops that do between 5 to 10 cars a day, that can easily equal 3 to 4 hours put back in the business. And at the cost of one extra vehicle per day, you may be looking at increasing your bottom line by $400 to $500 every single day by something as simple as speeding up your parts ordering. Now, the third major area that we're going to help in terms of streamlining your operations is going to be in your customer communications. Again, a little bit hard for me to get instant feedback on this. If this resonates, just say yes in the chat. One of the most common frustrations, in fact, one of the most dreaded situations for a lot of shops I talk to, is when they walk around the vehicle and they see that there's extra work that needs to be performed that the customer maybe hadn't anticipated. And the reason that that is so dreaded is oftentimes what that process becomes is you pick up the phone and you call the customer and they don't pick up the phone. So you leave them a message saying, hey, it's Tristan from Tristan's Auto. I need to give you a call about the car that you've brought in. 30 minutes go by. There's no reply from the customer. The car is still up on the rack, slowing up your workflow of things that are in the shop. And we still haven't got the approval from that customer. So 45 minutes goes by and the customer calls us back and we say, hey, you need some extra work that you didn't anticipate. I've seen that you need a new ball joint. It's flapping around like this. And then the customer wants to haggle with you. Why do I need this? How much is it going to cost? Do I really need this? Can I go somewhere else to get an extra quote? And before you know it, you've lost an hour of turn time in the business, and you maybe haven't even secured the work for that customer. It's not uncommon that this is the number one thing that shows up in shops that they're looking to improve, is to streamline that sequence. You can't start the work without the approval. And so we want to make that easier for you. We have an integrated customer communication module that covers all sorts of areas from appointment reminders to digital inspection delivery, all the way through to payments through text to pay. And what it means is that as soon as you identify that work, you can text that customer all of the information relevant to their job that they're doing. You can provide them pictures, video, audio recordings, and a write-up, a diagnosis of exactly why that work needs to be performed. And in under 30 seconds, they can review all of that, sign it, and return it to you. So not only is it going to help increase the trust, it's also going to streamline that process for you. You'll see up in the top right here, one of our customers in our process that we discussed with was saving 80 to 90% on every single approval that they were spending. They were saving between 30 minutes to an hour on every single estimate. Just think about how much work you could do if you had an extra hour per customer where the work was flowing in faster. Now, as far as the profitability, as I mentioned at the top of this, is somewhat of a secondary focus. The first thing we want to do is we want to make you as efficient as possible. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to give you tools that are going to help you make more money either per customer or bringing in more customers. And this is where a majority of softwares lack. They often require you to subscribe to additional programs, things like Auto Vitals to get a DVI, things like My Shop Manager to handle customer communication, maybe a platform like Kukui in order to handle your marketing campaigns. And the problem with that is that it adds significant cost to your business operation. It isn't uncommon for shops that are carrying that fully blooded tech stack I just referenced to be spending upwards of $1,000 a day. Now, when you talk about return on investment, that stack has to return significantly more money and profitability for you in order to justify that $1,000 a month price point. So similar to the operational efficiency, there are three main areas that we help businesses to improve their profitability. The first and the most common is going to be no-shows. Now, a lot of shops I talk to tell me that they get absolutely no shows, and then it emerges that they get no shows because they don't run appointments. Impossible for someone to not show up to something that wasn't booked, right? But ultimately, this is a problem that every business in the industry faces. Every shop sees no-shows. There's always something that's going to happen in life. And this is actually a massive missed revenue opportunity for shops that people don't always necessarily equate with. The reason that I think shops struggle to view this as large a problem as it is because this is actually a twofold problem. Not only do you lose the revenue of the customer that didn't show up, but you also miss the revenue of the customer that couldn't get booked in because that other customer was on the calendar. So now, in essence, you miss two customers for every customer that no shows you. And that can have a massive compounding effect for the businesses. Now, a lot of shops try to address this by either texting or calling their customers prior to their appointment. But if we're being transparent with one another, that isn't always a perfect solution. If people get busy, the calls don't get made. If we think that the customer's going to get frustrated because we're bothering them, that call doesn't get made. There's a plethora of reasons why that call or text may not go out. But ultimately, the end state is the same. A customer who doesn't show up that then slows your operations up and minimizes the amount of revenue that you can drive in that singular day. The way that we resolve that is we have an automated communication that works directly in sync with your calendar. So the second that you create that appointment for your customer, they go into an outreach sequence. Now, that outreach sequence is completely customizable, and it's a simple text or email. It says, "Hey, Stephanie, thank you for booking your appointment at 10 o'clock tomorrow. We wanted to reach out and make sure that that was going to be okay for you. Hit 1 to let us know you're coming. Hit 0 to let us know you're not." You've probably all dealt with that at restaurants, at dentists, at anything where you have to get in line. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have the same tools at your disposal to help you understand exactly what's going on with your customers. Ultimately, the bottom line of this is that it increases your revenue significantly and it decreases confusion and lacking organization within the business. Another significant area that is often overlooked by the industry is in accessing your data. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get from the legacy systems, the Mitchells, the AllDatas of the world, is that the data is there, but it is not always necessarily easy to use. Common frustrations, you maybe have to run multiple reports and take half of report A and half of report B, put it into Excel and add column A from column C, and that'll give you the number that you ultimately were looking for. In other systems, I hear that you just physically don't even have access to the data that you need. Now, the problem with that is that if you lack the data that you need, it's very hard to make effective decisions for your business. And if it's hard to get the data, then it makes it not particularly appealing to try and get hold of that information. Again, that filters down to you will struggle to make the decisions you need. But the secondary side of this is that it's hard to track whether you're making improvements. We're very fortunate to work with a number of highly esteemed and decorated shop coaches, some of whom are talking today. And if you talk with them, one of the first pieces of feedback that they'll give you about running an efficient shop is you have to know your numbers. What you can measure can get improved. And not having access to this is a failure for a lot of businesses. The common mistake that I hear, the number one mistake for businesses that aren't being successful, is undercutting their labor prices and cutting the amount of profitability that you make from your labor time. By giving access to businesses in a simple and streamlined way, this is our dashboard, for example, which is designed to be your health monitor, you can, in 5 to 10 seconds, scan and analyze your business. You can identify potential weak points in your organization. And typically, you will see in the first year of using AutoLeap, by having this kind of visualization and tracking, typically a 10 to 20% lift in your profit margins. For the average shop that we work with that's doing between $700,000 to $1 million, that can mean anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in extra revenue if this is something that isn't currently being tracked. A great example of how I would use this, if you see down in the bottom left here, I have my profitability and efficiency tile. My labor margin hovering at 69%, I feel pretty good about. But if I look left to my parts margin at 43%, that is significantly below not only where I would like to be if I ran a shop, but also below the industry benchmarks that have been set by our shop coaches. Now I know that in the month of March, I need to really focus on how much I charge for my parts, whether that's increasing the speed at which I get the right parts or just making sure that I'm correctly pricing so that I'm not letting money walk out of the door. Now, the third and final position where we're going to help to drive that profitability and revenue is by providing you tools that no one else in the industry does, namely our customer communication and feedback module. A lot of shops understand the importance of an online presence nowadays. I don't go eat anywhere. I don't go do anything without going onto Google and checking the results of where I'm going. But personally, I don't leave reviews anywhere. I'm a pretty bad consumer for those shops, regardless if they give me a great response. Oftentimes, I just don't have the time or the energy. What we want to do is we want to put the power into the hands of business owners like yourself to drive and improve that new channel for customers. We've typically found that by integrating this functionality, not only is it going to save you between $3,000 to $5,000 a year in software, which you would have to buy through any of the other players in this market, but we're also going to drive significant improvements in your customer experience, their loyalty, and their willingness to do work with you. It isn't uncommon for businesses to add 3x to the number of reviews that they're going to receive online. Having a better online presence means more people see you. You rise to the top of the algorithms. It means when people do see you, it's easier for them to trust and invest in you. And when they come to see you and you provide that extra work recommendation, they're now more willing to do it with you. Overall, when we look at the impacts of the AutoLeap system, it is something that touches all areas of the business. And obviously, this is a shorter session. We'd love the opportunity to show you in depth through the course of a demo exactly how we can drive those improvements for you as a business. What we typically find is that for businesses that look to make the change, within the first 3 months, the system has paid for itself and they've seen all of the kinds of improvements that we've discussed through the course of this session. And ultimately, that's why we're here and that's why we exist. We want to make your lives as easy as possible. We want to help you delight your customers. And we want to make sure that you run the best business that's physically possible. So with that being said, I'd love to turn it over now for some questions if we have any. I have one final poll. I'd love to see if anyone would be interested in receiving a personalized report through the Hobson calculator, in which case we can reach out afterwards to discuss some of those results. Okay, looks like those are flowing in here. I'll give it a moment for the last couple to reply. And as Stephanie just said there, we have about 10 minutes here for questions. If anybody has questions, I'd love to open it up and make sure that I address them for you. If not, I'll give you the 10 or 15 minutes back so you can go and explore some of our other resources. Looks like we're flowing in. Steph, if we can give it 30 more seconds before we close the poll, that would be great. So as it relates to questions, there we go. Tom, no question? Okay, Tom, I'll take a check out of that for you once I get off this call. We can definitely have a chat with you about it, okay? I'll leave the question box open until 10. That's 10 Mountain, so 12 Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific, wherever we're coming from. We'll leave the question box open for a couple more minutes. If we don't receive any in the next few, hey, there we go, Brenda. Thank you so much. That's fantastic to hear. How long have you been using the system for, Brenda? 4 weeks. Okay, fantastic. So you're already seeing some of those improvements. In the first 4 weeks, obviously we've come through training, we've walked you through all of that. Where's the biggest impact that you've noticed in the early days of using the system? Margins and consistent shop supplies. Okay, were you finding that sometimes you failed to bill those shop supplies to customers? Absolutely right. You know, one of the things that I say to a lot of shop owners is that if you have to do something manually, it's easy to miss. But if it's automated, super easy for us. And I apologize. I just got a message from Steph that not everyone can see the chats. Brenda was saying that in the first 4 weeks of using the system, A, she's seeing that the return on investment timeline is correct, but B, the largest impact that she's seen is in consistent billing of shop supplies and also of tracking of their margins. Additionally there, Brenda, was there a specific margin or data point that you felt you weren't tracking as effectively as you'd like to have done? Parts margins. Okay. Do you know what you were operating at before and what you're currently operating at as your steady state at the moment? Increase of 4%. Okay, fantastic. And in early days, that is exactly the kind of change that we're trying to drive for you to make your life more streamlined, more simple, and more scalable. So now you can have those kinds of drives. That's fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brenda. Are there any other current AutoLeap users that would feel comfortable sharing some of their experience so that we can discuss it? Looks like we're at the top of the hour here then. Given that it appears that we don't have any more questions coming in or any more points of conversation, what I'd like to do is once again, first off, just say thank you all for your support, for your attendance, for everything you do to keep this industry ticking and keep it a great industry to be part of. Tom Ham has just said that he'd love to hear from any Autoleap users who have switched from Shopware. Um, Anyone who's attended this session who is comfortable for us to connect you with Tom, please don't hesitate to let us know. If not, Tom, we can definitely get you connected up with somebody, okay? Fantastic. With that being said, once again, thank you so much, everyone. I really hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope the rest of the sessions are really helpful for you, okay? Everyone have a fantastic one.